The crystal garden sparkled with 1,000 colors. Lights danced across the water features and reflected off the glass ceiling. Taman stood near a tall window, watching the stars beyond the station. He held a drink he hadn't touched. Diplomatic parties always made him uncomfortable. Around him, aliens from across the galaxy talked and laughed. Some had scales, others had fur. Some were twice his height, others barely reached his waist. All of them wore expensive clothes and jewelry. All of them acted like they owned the universe. Taman was human. His people had only joined the galactic community 150 years ago. In galaxy time, that made humans very new, very young. The older species looked down on humanity, but they also feared them a little. Humans had powerful weapons and didn't follow all the rules. A server moved through the crowd carrying a tray of drinks. She was small and graceful with pale purple skin that seemed to glow softly in the dim light. Her large eyes were dark and careful. She kept her head down as she worked. Taman recognized her species. Valorian. They were classified as a servitor species by the Dominion Accord. That was the fancy way of saying they could be owned like property, bought and sold, used however their owners wanted. The thought made him sick. Humans had abolished slavery centuries ago after bloody wars and long struggles. Finding out that slavery was legal and normal in galactic society had shocked Earth. But the Dominion was powerful. Earth had to play by their rules if humans wanted to trade and travel among the stars. The Valorian woman approached a group of merchants. One of them, a massive creature with gray skin and too many arms, grabbed a glass from her tray. He drank it quickly and threw the empty glass back at her. She caught it smoothly, barely flinching. Then another guest reached out and pinched her arm hard. She gasped, but didn't cry out. The guests laughed. It was just a game to them. Entertainment. Taman's jaw tightened. He forced himself to stay still. Getting angry wouldn't help. It would only make things worse. He had to be smart. He had to be careful. The party's host, Merchant Lord Vraxis, stood on a raised platform. He was a Cavrite with red scales and cold yellow eyes. Vraxis clapped his hands together, making a sharp sound that cut through the noise. Everyone quieted down. Vraxis smiled, showing too many teeth. He began talking about trade deals and profit margins. Taman pretended to listen, but he kept watching the Valorian server. She moved between the guests like a shadow, silent, invisible, trying not to be noticed. But Taman noticed her. He noticed the old bruises on her arms, the way she moved carefully, like someone expecting to be hit. The fear in her eyes that never completely went away. Vraxis finished his speech. The guests clapped politely. Music started playing again, and conversations resumed. The Valorian woman hurried back toward the kitchen area. But she didn't make it. A tall alien with blue skin and elaborate robes stepped in front of her. Taman recognized him as a Thraxian ambassador. The Thraxians were known for their cruelty to servants. The ambassador said something to her in a low voice. The woman shook her head quickly. The ambassador grabbed her wrist. She tried to pull away. He held tighter. Taman moved before he could stop himself. He crossed the room in quick strides and stepped between them. "Excuse me," Taman said firmly. "I need her assistance with some documents, translation work." The Thraxian ambassador glared at him. "This servant is occupied with me, human." "She's working for the party host," Taman replied calmly. "Taking her away from her duties would be disrespectful to Merchant Lord Vraxis." The mention of their host made the ambassador pause. He released the woman's wrist and stepped back, his face twisted with anger. "Humans," he muttered. "No respect for proper order." He walked away. Taman turned to the Valorian woman. She stared at him with wide, frightened eyes. She was trembling. "Are you all right?" he asked quietly. She didn't answer. She just stood there, frozen. Merchant Lord Vraxis approached them. His expression was unreadable. The room had gone quiet again. Everyone was watching. "Human Taman," Vraxis said slowly. "You have caused quite a disturbance." Taman's heart pounded, but he kept his voice steady. "I apologize, Merchant Lord. I didn't mean to disrupt your gathering. I simply needed assistance." Vraxis looked at the Valorian woman, then back at Taman. A slow smile spread across his face. It wasn't a kind smile. I see, Vraxis said. You are interested in this one. She is called Nari. She has served me for 8 years. He reached out and grabbed Nari's chin, forcing her to look up at him. She is well trained. Obedient. Usually. He released her and turned back to Taman. She has caused trouble tonight by attracting your attention. Perhaps she wanted this. Perhaps she tried to seduce you. No, Taman said quickly. She did nothing wrong. I was the one who interfered. Vraxis waved a hand dismissively. It does not matter. The situation is awkward now. The Thraxian ambassador is insulted. You humans are becoming more important in galactic trade every year. I cannot afford to offend you. He paused, studying Taman's face. I will give her to you. A gift, to show there are no hard feelings between us. The words hit Taman like a physical blow. Give her to him, like an object, like furniture. He looked at Nari. She had gone completely still. Her face showed nothing, but her hands were clenched into fists at her sides. If he refused, what would happen to her? Vraxis would punish her for causing this scene. The punishment would be severe, maybe fatal. And refusing a gift from a merchant lord was a serious insult. It could hurt Earth's diplomatic relationships. But if he accepted, he would own another person. The thought made him want to vomit. Taman took a deep breath. He would accept. Then he would find a way to make this right. He had to. You are very generous, Merchant Lord Vraxis, Taman said carefully. I accept your gift with gratitude. Vraxis smiled wider. Excellent. I will have her ownership papers transferred to you immediately. She is yours now, human. Use her as you wish. The party resumed slowly. Guests went back to their conversations, though many continued to watch Taman and Nari with curious eyes. Taman gently touched Nari's shoulder. She flinched but didn't pull away. Come with me, he said softly. Please. Nari followed him out of the crystal gardens. She walked 3 steps behind him, as servants were trained to do. Her face was blank, but her whole body was tense with fear. She had been a servant her whole adult life. She had learned to expect cruelty. She had learned to survive by being invisible and obedient. Now she belonged to a human. She had heard stories about humans. Some said they were violent and unpredictable. Others said they were soft and weak. She didn't know which was true. What she did know was that her life had just changed completely. New owners always wanted to establish dominance. The first night was always the worst. Nari prepared herself for pain. It was all she knew how to do. Taman's quarters were quiet. The lights were soft. Nari stood near the door with her eyes down, waiting for orders. Her heart beat fast in her chest. The human moved across the room. He seemed uncomfortable. He kept starting to speak, then stopping. Finally, he pointed to a door on the left side of the room. That's a bedroom, you can sleep there. It has a lock on the inside, you can lock it if you want. Nari didn't move. Was this a test? Masters often played games with new servants. They pretended to be kind, then punished you for believing them. Taman rubbed his face with both hands. I know you're scared. I know you don't trust me. I wouldn't trust me either, in your position. He sat down in a chair, keeping distance between them. My name is Taman. What's your name? Nari, Master, she whispered. Just Taman, not Master, please. He looked tired. Nari, I don't believe in slavery. I think the servitor system is wrong, evil. But I'm stuck in it right now, just like you are. Nari finally looked up at him. His face seemed honest, but she had been fooled before. I accepted you from Vraxis because I was afraid of what he would do to you if I refused, Taman continued. But I'm not going to use you. I'm not going to hurt you. You'll sleep in your own room. You'll eat regular meals. And I'm going to find a way to free you. The words were so strange that Nari couldn't process them at first. Free her? No one freed servants, it didn't happen. Why? She asked. Her voice was barely audible. Taman was quiet for a moment. My parents worked in factories on Earth. The corporations that owned those factories treated workers like property. They couldn't legally own them, but they controlled everything. Their wages, their homes, their food. My parents died when those corporations decided workers were too expensive and shut down the factories without warning. His hands clenched into fists. I was 14. I survived because a teacher took me in. I swore I would never let that kind of thing happen again if I could stop it. When I see you, I see my parents. I see every person who has ever been treated as less than human. Nari felt something crack inside her chest. Hope. Dangerous, painful hope. The bedroom, Taman said again, more gently. Please rest. We'll talk more tomorrow. Nari walked to the bedroom slowly. She half expected him to grab her. He didn't. She went inside and closed the door. There was a lock, just like he said. She turned it. Then she sat on the bed and cried quietly. She didn't know if she was crying from relief or fear or just exhaustion. The next morning, Nari woke up confused. She had actually slept. No one had come for her in the night. She found Taman in the main room, eating breakfast. There was food on the table for 2 people. Good morning, he said. Are you hungry? Nari nodded carefully. Taman gestured to the chair across from him. She sat down slowly, watching him for any sign of anger. They ate in silence. The food was good, better than what servants usually got. After breakfast, Taman pulled out a medical kit. I noticed you have some injuries. May I treat them? Nari looked at the bruises on her arms. Old ones from Vraxis, newer ones from other guests at parties. She had stopped noticing pain a long time ago. If you wish, she said quietly. Taman was gentle as he applied healing gel to her bruises. His touch was careful, professional. Does this hurt? No. Tell me if I hurt you, please. I'll stop. Those words were so foreign. Stop if it hurts. No master had ever said that. Days passed. Taman kept his word. He gave Nari her own space. He asked before touching her, even just to check injuries. He asked what food she liked. He asked if the temperature was comfortable. Slowly, very slowly, Nari began to relax. Just a little. One evening, she found him working at a desk covered with papers and data screens. He looked frustrated. What are you doing? She asked. It was the first time she had spoken without being asked a question first. Taman looked up, surprised but pleased that she had spoken. I'm researching Dominion law, looking for ways to free you legally. And? Hope and fear mixed in her voice. It's complicated. He rubbed his eyes. Servitors can only be freed by their home government, but your home government is controlled by the same people who benefit from keeping you enslaved. Nari's shoulders slumped. She had known it was impossible. Freedom was always impossible. But, Taman said quickly, there is one exception. One loophole in the law. She looked at him. Marriage, he said. If a servitor marries a citizen of a full member species, they automatically gain citizenship. They become free. Nari stared at him. Marriage? It's rare. Most people think it's wrong or strange, but it's legal. Taman met her eyes. If you married me, you would be free. You would have human citizenship, all the rights and protections that come with it. Nari couldn't breathe. Was he serious? Why would you do that? Because it's right. Because you deserve freedom. He paused. I won't lie to you. It would be difficult. People would judge us. My career might suffer. And it would be a real marriage legally, even if it's just a partnership between us personally. You would be my wife on paper, but you would have your own life. Your own choices. I wouldn't force anything on you. We could even separate later if you wanted once you were safely established as a citizen. Nari's mind spun. This was too much, too good, too impossible. I need time, she whispered. Of course, take all the time you need. This is your choice, Nari. Only yours. That night, Nari lay in her bed staring at the ceiling. Her whole life, she had never made a real choice. Everything had been decided for her. She had been sold to pay her family's debts when she was 12 years old. Her homeworld, Valoria, was beautiful but poor. Rich corporations from other planets had come promising prosperity. Instead, they had trapped everyone in debt. Nari's parents had borrowed money to expand their farm. When the crops failed because the corporations controlled the weather satellites and the water supply, they couldn't pay. The debt collectors came. They took Nari and her younger sister Mirai. The sisters were separated. Nari went to Vraxis. She didn't know where Mirai had gone. She had spent 14 years not knowing if her sister was alive or dead. If she married Taman and became free, could she help Mirai? Could she find her sister and save her too? But what if this was a trick? What if Taman was lying? What if marriage just meant a different kind of slavery? Nari touched the lock on her door. He had given her a lock. He had given her space and food and kindness. Maybe, just maybe, he was telling the truth. And if he was, this might be her only chance. Her only chance at freedom. Her only chance to help Mirai. She had to be brave. She had survived 14 years of slavery. She could survive taking this risk. Nari made her decision. Nari asked Taman for 3 days to think. He agreed immediately and gave her something unexpected. A temporary identity beacon. This will let you move around the station, he explained. It shows you're registered to me, so station security won't bother you. But you can go wherever you want. See things. Talk to people. Just be back by station curfew. Nari stared at the small device. Freedom. Even temporary freedom. She hadn't walked freely in 14 years. Thank you, she whispered. The first day, Nari barely left the corridor outside Taman's quarters. She stood there for an hour just breathing. Just existing without orders. The second day, she ventured further. The station was massive. Nexus Prime had districts for every social class. The upper levels were clean and bright with shops and restaurants. The lower levels were dark and crowded. Nari found herself in the servitor quarters. These cramped spaces housed thousands of servants between their shifts. The air smelled of too many bodies in too small a space. She saw Valorians like herself. She saw other species too, all servitors, all property. A hand touched her shoulder. Nari spun around, heart racing. A Valorian man stood there. He was older than her, with scars on his face and arms, but his eyes were sharp and intelligent. "You're Nari," he said quietly, "the one who was given to the human." News traveled fast among servants. "Yes," she said. "My name is Kale. Come with me. We need to talk." Nari followed him through narrow passages to a small hidden room. Inside, several other Valorians waited. "We heard about your situation," Kale said. "The human wants to marry you for citizenship." Nari tensed. How did they know? "Who told you?" "We have ways of learning things, we have to." "We're the resistance." "Resistance?" Nari had heard rumors. Whispers of servitors who escaped and helped others escape. Kale nodded. "I was freed 5 years ago. A citizen married me just like your human wants to do with you. But I learned the truth. Legal freedom isn't real freedom. I was still dependent on my citizen spouse. Still judged. Still treated as lesser." He leaned forward. "Beyond Dominion space, there are colonies of freed servitors. True freedom. No laws, no judges, no citizens looking down on us. We help people escape to those colonies." Nari's heart pounded. "You can get me out?" "Yes, tonight if you want. We have a ship leaving. You'll never be property again." It sounded perfect, but something made Nari hesitate. "What about my sister? She's still enslaved somewhere." Kale's expression softened. "If we find her, we can help her too. But it takes time. We have to be careful. And if I marry Taman, could I help find my sister then?" Kale frowned. "Maybe. Citizenship gives you access to databases and resources. But marriage also ties you to human society, to their rules and expectations. You'd be free legally but trapped socially." Nari felt torn. Two paths. Both offered freedom. Both had costs. "Think about it," Kale said. "But decide quickly. We leave tonight." Nari left the hidden room in a daze. She walked through the station without seeing it. Her mind churned with thoughts. Escape meant complete freedom but abandoning any chance to help Mirai quickly. Marriage meant staying in Dominion space but having legal power to search for her sister. And there was Taman. He had been kind, Genuinely kind. Was that worth nothing? Nari returned to the quarters as the station lights dimmed for night cycle. Taman was at his desk again, surrounded by devices and tools. He looked up and smiled. "How was your day?" "Interesting," she said carefully. Taman gestured to the device he was building. "I've been working on something. It's a communication device, encrypted, untraceable. I thought if you had a sister or other family still enslaved, we could try to contact them." Nari froze. "What? You mentioned your sister once." "Mirai, right? I've been researching how to find servitors in the Dominion database. It's illegal for me to access it directly. But with this device, we might be able to reach resistance networks who can help." He looked embarrassed. "I know you haven't decided about marriage yet. This isn't to pressure you. I just wanted to help regardless of what you choose." Something in Nari's chest felt like it was breaking and healing at the same time. This human was building illegal technology to help her find her sister. He was risking his career, his freedom, maybe his life, and he said regardless of what she chose. He wasn't using her sister as leverage. He was just helping because it was right. Kale had been wrong about one thing. Marriage to Taman wouldn't be a trap. It would be a partnership. "I've made my decision," Nari said. Taman set down his tools. He looked nervous, and, "I'll marry you." The words came out stronger than she expected. "Not because I have no other choice. I met someone today who offered me escape. Complete escape." Taman's eyes widened. "Then why?" "Because I don't just want to be free. I want to help others be free. And I think you want that too. I think together, we can do more than either of us could alone." She stepped closer. "Also because you're building communication devices at midnight to help find my sister. Because you gave me a choice. Because you're kind." Taman stood up slowly. "Nari, I need you to understand. This won't be easy. People will judge us. They'll say terrible things. The Dominion might try to challenge the marriage. And we'll be living together as husband and wife legally, even if we keep separate rooms. I know. I'm not afraid." That was a lie. She was terrified. But she was also determined. "We should set rules," Taman said. "Boundaries. Make sure we both feel comfortable." For the next hour, they talked. Really talked. About expectations, about privacy, about what marriage would mean for both of them. Nari learned that Taman was an engineer who had joined the diplomatic corps to change things from the inside. He loved solving problems and hated injustice. He was quiet but stubborn. Taman learned that Nari had studied xenobiology before being enslaved. She was curious about other species and other worlds. She loved learning but had been denied education for years. She was careful but brave when it mattered. They were different people from different worlds, but they shared the same values, the same belief that all beings deserve freedom and dignity. "So we're really doing this," Taman said finally. "Yes, we're really doing this." They shook hands awkwardly. Then Nari surprised herself by hugging him quickly. Taman went stiff with surprise before carefully returning the hug. "Thank you," Nari whispered. "Thank you for trusting me," Taman replied. They pulled apart, both slightly embarrassed, but both also feeling something new. Hope. Real hope for the future. The next day, Taman began the paperwork for marriage. Nari used the communication device to send a message to Kale, thanking him but declining his offer. She asked if his network could help find information about her sister. Kale responded that they would try. The wheels were in motion. Soon, everything would change. The wedding ceremony was small. It took place in the human embassy section of Nexus Prime. Only a few humans attended. Ambassador Hyunwoo stood as witness. Captain Jiwon, a starship commander who sympathized with their cause, also came. Nari wore simple clothes. Nothing fancy. She didn't own anything fancy. But Taman had given her a small flower from Earth. She wore it in her hair. The ceremony took 10 minutes. They spoke the required words. They signed the documents. Ambassador Hyunwoo registered the marriage immediately with Dominion authorities. Legally, Nari was now free. Legally, she was human. But the real battle was just beginning. News spread through the station within hours. A human had married a servitor. A former slave was now a citizen. The reactions were immediate and harsh. Other species called it unnatural, disgusting. They said humans were polluting the social order. Some said it was an insult to the concept of marriage. Merchant Lord Vraxis was furious. He filed a legal challenge within a day. He claimed the marriage was fraudulent. He said Taemin had manipulated his generous gift for personal gain. He demanded Nari be returned to him. Ambassador Hyunwoo brought the news to Taemin and Nari personally. His face was grave. The case goes before a Dominion arbiter in 3 days, he said. You'll need to prove the marriage is genuine. They'll question both of you. It won't be pleasant. What happens if we lose? Nari asked. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook. Hyunwoo hesitated. The marriage would be annulled. You would revert to servitor status. Vraxis would reclaim you, and then he would punish her severely, Taemin said quietly. For embarrassing him? Yes, Hyunwoo admitted. Nari felt cold fear wash over her. But she had known this was a risk. What do we need to do? Be honest. Show that you care for each other. Prove you're building a real life together. Hyunwoo looked uncomfortable. They'll ask invasive questions. Personal questions. You need to be prepared. The next 3 days were tense. Taemin and Nari talked constantly, sharing stories about their lives. They needed their answers to match. They needed to seem like a real couple. But something strange happened. The more they talked, the more they actually grew closer. They laughed together. They supported each other's fears. What had started as practice began to feel real. The hearing took place in a public chamber. Hundreds of beings filled the observation galleries. Some were curious. Others were hostile. All wanted to see what would happen. The arbiter was a Kelthian, tall and thin with silver skin. She looked down at Taemin and Nari with cold eyes. This court will determine if the marriage between human Taemin and the Valorian, formerly known as property of Merchant Lord Vraxis, is legitimate, she announced. Vraxis's lawyer spoke first. He was smooth and confident. This marriage is clearly a fraud. The human wanted to steal valuable property. The servitor was manipulated into participating. Then it was their turn. Taemin explained how they met. He spoke honestly about his opposition to slavery. He described their growing friendship. The arbiter's questions were sharp. Did you discuss marriage before receiving her from Merchant Lord Vraxis? No, Taemin answered. Did you intervene at the party specifically to acquire her? No, I intervened because someone was hurting her. I couldn't stand by and watch. How convenient, the arbiter said coldly. You acquire a servitor and immediately marry her for citizenship. You must think we're fools. Then they questioned Nari. She stood straight despite her fear. Did the human pressure you to marry him? The arbiter asked. No, Nari said firmly. Did he offer you rewards in exchange for cooperation? He offered me freedom. That's all I wanted. So you admit this marriage is transactional? Nari felt anger rise in her chest. No, that's not what I said. The arbiter leaned forward. Then explain. What is this marriage if not a fraud? Nari took a deep breath. It's a partnership. Taemin gave me something I had never been given before. A choice. He explained the marriage law. He explained the risks. He gave me time to decide. I could have refused. I could have escaped through other means. I chose to marry him because I believe in what he's trying to do. I believe in changing this broken system. And yes, I wanted freedom. Every sentient being wants freedom. Asking if I wanted freedom is like asking if I wanted to breathe. The gallery went quiet. Nari continued, her voice growing stronger. You ask if this marriage is real. You question whether I can make decisions. That's the problem, isn't it? You don't believe servitors can think or choose or love. You think we're just property. But I am standing here. I am speaking. I am telling you that I chose this. If you don't believe I can make that choice, then you're proving exactly why this system is wrong. You're proving why it needs to change. The arbiter's expression didn't change. You speak well for a servitor. I speak well because I'm intelligent. Because I had education before I was enslaved. Because being property doesn't erase who I am. Nari's voice cracked slightly. I had a name. I had a family. I had dreams. Slavery took those things from me. Taemin gave them back. She looked directly at Merchant Lord Vraxis. You want me back. Not because I'm valuable property, but because you can't stand the idea that I escaped, that I won. Vraxis's face darkened with rage. The arbiter called for a recess. Taemin and Nari sat together in a small waiting room. Neither spoke. They didn't need to. When they returned, the arbiter delivered her judgment. This court finds no evidence of fraud or coercion. The marriage between human Taman and Nari is legal and binding. The challenge is dismissed. Relief flooded through Nari. They had won, but the arbiter wasn't finished. However, this court notes that this situation is highly irregular. The Dominion Council will review marriage laws to prevent similar incidents in the future. Merchant Lord Vraxis stood. This is not over, human. You have made powerful enemies today. Taman met his gaze steadily. I can live with that. They left the chamber together. Outside, a crowd of servitors had gathered. They said nothing, but their eyes followed Nari with something like hope. Back in their quarters, Nari and Taman collapsed onto the couch. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving them exhausted. You were amazing, Taman said quietly. That speech. You changed minds in that room. I was terrified, Nari admitted. Being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing the right thing even when you're scared. Nari looked at him. Really looked at him. This human who had risked everything for her. Who believed in her. Who treated her as an equal. Thank you, she said. For everything. We're partners now, Taman replied. Really, truly partners. You don't have to thank me for that. They sat in comfortable silence. The battle was won, but both knew the war was far from over. The Dominion Council would try to close the marriage loophole. Other servitors were watching. Enemies were gathering, but tonight they had won. Tonight they were free. 6 months passed. Life on Nexus Prime settled into a new routine, though nothing was truly normal. Nari spent her days studying. With access to the human embassy's educational resources, she devoured everything. Xenobiology, galactic history, engineering basics. She had been denied knowledge for so long that she couldn't stop learning now. Ambassador Hyunwoo noticed her aptitude. He offered her a position as a research assistant in the embassy. It was small work at first, cataloging samples and organizing data, but it was real work, paid work. Her work, Taman continued his diplomatic duties, but his true passion was the growing resistance movement. He and Nari spent evenings working with Kale's network, planning and coordinating. Word of their marriage had spread throughout the servitor population. Other servants began seeking similar arrangements. Some humans and members of other citizen species agreed to marry servitors to free them. It was working, slowly, carefully, but it was working. The relationship between Nari and Taman had evolved too. They still kept separate bedrooms, but they spent most of their time together. They worked together, ate together, laughed together. Somewhere along the way, respect had become friendship. And friendship was becoming something more, though neither acknowledged it out loud. One night, Taman's encrypted communicator buzzed. His face went pale as he read the message. What is it? Nari asked. The Dominion Council. They're voting on new legislation tomorrow. They want to require 5 years of citizenship before a freed servitor can sponsor others for freedom. And they want to ban future marriages between servitors and citizens. Nari felt her stomach drop. They're closing the loophole, trying to. The vote isn't final yet, but it looks like they have enough support. They contacted Kale immediately. An emergency meeting was called with the Resistance Network leaders. In a hidden room deep in the servitor quarters, 20 beings gathered. Some were freed servitors. Others were sympathetic citizens. All were committed to ending slavery. We knew this was coming, Kyle said grimly. We freed maybe 200 servitors in the past 6 months. That's nothing compared to the millions still enslaved. But it scared the slave owners. Can we stop the vote? Someone asked. Ambassador Hyunwoo shook his head. Earth is trying. We're lobbying other species, but we're still new to galactic politics. We don't have enough influence. Then we need to act now, Nari said, before the law passes. Free as many as we can while we still can. That's dangerous, Kale warned. Moving too fast draws attention. We're out of time for caution, Taman said firmly. What do we need? They spent hours planning. Citizens willing to marry servitors. Transportation for those who wanted to escape to free colonies. Resources and safe houses. Then Kale revealed something new. We've located several large servitor populations in mining colonies. Hundreds of workers in each. If we could organize simultaneous liberation operations, we could free thousands before the law changes. That's ambitious, Captain Jiwon said. She had been helping transport freed servitors quietly. We'd need ships, supplies, and perfect timing. My sister, Nari said suddenly. Is she in one of those colonies? Kale pulled up a datapad. We found records of a Valorian named Mirai, She's on Corvus 7, a mining operation. Tears filled Nari's eyes. She's alive. Taman squeezed her hand. Then we go to Corvus 7. The plan came together over the next 2 weeks. It was risky and complicated. They would hit 3 colonies simultaneously, with Corvus 7 as their primary target. Captain Jiwan would provide the main transport ship. Smaller vessels from the Resistance would handle the other locations. They had to move fast, get in and out before security could respond. Taman worked on technical solutions, devices to jam communications and override security systems. Nari helped plan the actual evacuation, using her knowledge of how servitor communities were organized. The night before the operation, Nari couldn't sleep. She sat in the common area staring at a picture Kale had sent. Mireille grown up now, still recognizable, still her sister Taman found her there. He sat down beside her without speaking. After a while, Nari leaned against his shoulder. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Me too," he said. "But we're doing the right thing. What if something goes wrong? What if someone gets hurt? Then we'll deal with it together." Taman turned to look at her. "Nari, I need you to know something. If this goes bad, if we get caught, I don't regret any of this. Meeting you, marrying you, fighting with you, it's been the most meaningful thing I've ever done." Nari felt her heart beat faster. "Taman, You don't have to say anything," he said quickly. "I just wanted you to know." But Nari did want to say something. Somewhere in the past 6 months, her feelings had changed. This human who had saved her, who had given her freedom, who had become her partner in every way that mattered. She cared about him, deeply. "When this is over," she said softly, "when Mireille is safe, can we talk? Really talk? About us?" Hope lit up Taman's face. "Yes, I'd like that." They sat together until dawn, not talking, just being present, drawing strength from each other for what was to come. The rescue team assembled at a private docking bay. 20 people, all volunteers, all knowing the risks. Ambassador Hyunwoo came to see them off. "If this works, you'll be heroes. If it fails, Earth may not be able to protect you. The Dominion will call it piracy." "We understand," Taman said. Captain G1 fired up her ship's engines. "Everyone strap in. It's going to be a rough ride." As the ship lifted off, Nari looked out the viewport at Nexus Prime falling away below them. 6 months ago, she had been property. Now she was about to lead a rescue mission. Taman sat beside her, checking his equipment. She reached over and took his hand. He looked surprised, then smiled and squeezed back. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. Partners, friends, maybe something more. The ship jumped to faster-than-light travel. Corvus 7 was 12 hours away. 12 hours until they would save hundreds of lives or die trying. Corvus 7 hung in space like a gray fist. The asteroid was massive, hollowed out by decades of mining. Lights dotted its surface where processing facilities sat. Captain Jiwan brought the ship in slowly, using a false cargo manifest. The colony security wasn't expecting trouble. Why would they? Who would try to steal servitors? They were worthless except to their owners. That arrogance would be their downfall. They docked at a supply bay. Taman and 2 others went first, dressed as delivery crew. Nari followed, hidden in a cargo container. Her heart hammered against her ribs. The plan was simple. Taman would disable the communication array. Kale's team would override the security systems. Nari and others would guide the servitors to the evacuation points. Simple plans rarely survived contact with reality. Taman reached the communication center without incident. His engineering skills made quick work of the systems. Within minutes, Corvus 7 was cut off from the outside galaxy. But a guard noticed the blackout faster than expected. Alarms started blaring. "We're compromised," Kale's voice crackled over the radio. "Security is responding. Move now." Nari burst out of her container and ran for the servitor quarters. The tunnels were narrow and dark. She knew these places. She had lived in places like this. She found the residential section. Hundreds of Valorians crowded in bunks stacked 4 high. They stared at her in confusion. "We're here to free you," Nari shouted. "Anyone who wants to leave, follow me, now." For a moment, no one moved. They were too shocked, too afraid. Then a young woman stepped forward. She was thin and covered in mining dust. "Nari, is that really you?" Nari's breath caught. The voice was familiar but older, changed. "Mireille?" Her sister. After 14 years, they stared at each other across the crowded room. We don't have time, Kale's voice interrupted. Security teams are moving toward your position. Mirai turned to the other workers. She's my sister. I trust her. We should go. That broke the spell. Servitors began moving. Some hesitated. Some were too afraid. But most followed. Nari led them through the tunnels. Mirai stayed close beside her. There was so much to say, but no time. They reached a junction. Taman was there with 3 others, holding off pursuing guards. Energy weapons flashed in the darkness. Go, Taman shouted. Get them to the ship, Nari hesitated. She couldn't leave him. A guard appeared behind Taman. Nari screamed a warning. Taman turned, but not fast enough. The energy blast caught him in the shoulder. He went down hard, everything slowed down. Nari saw the guard advancing. Saw Taman struggling to get up. Saw the weapon rising, she didn't think. She moved. Grabbed a piece of debris and threw it. The guard stumbled. Kale appeared and tackled him. Nari ran to Taman. Blood seeped through his suit. His face was pale with pain. I'm okay, he gasped. Just get everyone out. Not without you. Nari pulled his good arm over her shoulder. Mirai, help me. Her sister took his other side. Together they half-carried, half-dragged him toward the docking bay. The rescued servitors poured onto Captain Jiwan's ship. Some were crying. Some were in shock. All were moving. 167, someone counted. We got 167, but not everyone came. Some had been too afraid. Some stayed with people who couldn't travel. The choice had to be theirs. Taman was loaded onto the ship. The medical bay was basic, but a volunteer medic began treating his wound immediately. Nari stayed with him while the medic worked. She held his hand. He was breathing hard, fighting to stay conscious. Did we get Mirai? He asked. Yes, she's safe. Because of you. Taman smiled weakly. Good, that's good. All teams, final boarding. Captain Jiwan's voice echoed through the ship. We launch in 60 seconds. Kale sprinted up the ramp last, carrying an injured team member. The doors sealed behind them. The ship shuddered as engines fired. Through the viewport, Nari saw Dominion security vessels approaching. They were out of time. Hold on, Captain Jiwan warned. The ship lurched forward. Energy blasts struck their shields. The ship rocked. Alarms blared, but Captain Jiwan was skilled. Her ship was fast. Human military technology gave them an edge. They punched through the security cordon. The ship jumped to faster-than-light travel. Corvus 7 disappeared behind them. The ship fell silent except for the hum of engines. Then someone started crying. Then someone else. Relief and shock and joy all mixed together. They were free. 167 people who had been property were now free. In the medical bay, the medic finished bandaging Taman's shoulder. He'll be okay. The wound is clean. He needs rest. Nari nodded, unable to speak. The adrenaline was wearing off. Everything felt overwhelming. Taman's eyes opened. He looked at Nari and smiled. You stayed. Of course I stayed, she said. Tears ran down her face. You idiot. You got shot. Worth it, he said softly. Nari leaned down and pressed her forehead against his. Don't ever scare me like that again. I'll try. He reached up with his good hand and wiped her tears. We did it, Nari, we really did it. Yeah, we did. Mirai appeared in the doorway. She looked uncertain. I don't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to check on him. He saved my life. All our lives. Nari stood and hugged her sister tight. 14 years of separation. 14 years of wondering and hoping and fearing. I missed you so much, Nari whispered. I never stopped looking for you, Mirai said. I heard stories about a Valorian who married a human. I hoped it was you. They pulled apart. Mirai looked at Taman. Thank you. I don't have words big enough, Taman managed a weak smile. Take care of your sister. That's thanks enough. The ship flew through hyperspace toward human territory, toward safety, toward a new beginning. Nari sat beside Taman while he slept. She watched him breathe. This brave, stubborn, kind human who had changed her life. She had thought she understood what she felt for him. Gratitude, respect, friendship. But watching him get shot had shown her the truth. It wasn't gratitude that made her heart stop. It wasn't friendship that made her refuse to leave him. It was love. Simple and complicated and terrifying and wonderful. She loved him. And when he woke up, she would tell him. The news hit the galaxy like a bomb. 3 mining colonies raided. Over 400 servitors freed. The Dominion was furious. They demanded Earth return the stolen property. They threatened to cut all trade. They called it piracy and terrorism. Earth's government called an emergency meeting. Taman, still recovering from his injury, was summoned to explain his actions. Nari went with him. They stood before a council of Earth's leaders. Serious faces looked down at them. "You've created a diplomatic crisis," one counselor said. "The Dominion wants you arrested. They want all the freed servitors returned. Will you do it?" Taman asked calmly. The counselors looked at each other. Ambassador Hyunwoo stepped forward. "No," he said firmly. "We won't. Earth doesn't recognize the legal ownership of sentient beings. What Taman and his team did was right, even if it was dangerous." Another counselor spoke. "The ambassador has proposed something bold. We want to make it official policy. Any servitor who reaches Earth territory and requests asylum will be granted citizenship. We're done pretending slavery is acceptable." Nari felt her breath catch. This was bigger than she had imagined. "This will have consequences," another counselor warned. "The Dominion will retaliate." "Let them," Hyunwoo said. "Humanity didn't come to the stars to accept tyranny. We came to spread freedom." The vote was close but passed. Earth officially rejected the servitor system. The announcement shook the galaxy. Some species threatened to break ties with humanity. Others quietly supported the decision. Several servitor uprisings broke out across Dominion space. The Dominion Council passed their restrictive marriage law, but it was too late. Hundreds of marriages had already occurred. The new asylum policy provided another path to freedom. Taman was cleared of all charges. More than that, he became a symbol. Human media covered his story extensively. People on Earth called him a hero. Nari was offered positions at several universities. Everyone wanted to hear from the freed servitor who had helped lead a rescue mission. She accepted a research position that would let her continue working with xenobiology. But first, they had something important to do. Earth offered land for a refugee settlement, a place where freed servitors could build new lives. Taman was assigned to help establish it. Nari volunteered to join him. The settlement was on a colony world called New Hope. The name was fitting. Mirai came too. She had skills in hydroponics from the mining colony. She would help establish farms and food production. One evening, after a long day of building shelters, Nari and Taman sat watching the sunset. The sky was purple and orange, completely different from Earth or Valoria. Taman's shoulder had healed, though he still moved it carefully. "He seemed nervous. You said we should talk," he began. "About us," Nari nodded. "Yes, I have something to tell you." "I should go first," Taman said quickly. "Nari, our marriage started as a legal strategy. I never expected it to become more. But it has, at least for me." He looked at her directly. "I love you, not because you were my responsibility or because we're married on paper. I love you because you're brilliant and brave and kind. Because you challenge me and inspire me. Because I can't imagine my life without you." Taman took a deep breath. "But I also know our relationship started with a huge power imbalance. You were property when we met. I freed you, and that might make you feel obligated. So if you want to separate, if you want to build your own life independently, I'll understand. I'll help you. We can stay friends," Nari smiled. "Are you finished?" "Yes," he said uncertainly. "Good. My turn." Nari took his hand. "When we married, I was grateful. You gave me freedom when no one else would. But gratitude isn't love. Over these months, I got to know you. The real you. Not my rescuer. Not my owner. Just Taman. The man who works too late at night. Who gets excited about engineering problems. Who cares so deeply about justice that he risks everything." She squeezed his hand. "When you got shot, I realized something. I wasn't afraid because I owed you. I was afraid because I couldn't imagine losing you. Because you're the most important person in my life. I love you, Taman. Not because you freed me. I love you despite all the complicated history. I love you because of who you are." Taman stared at her. Then he laughed, a sound of pure joy. "Really?" "Really," she confirmed. He pulled her close and kissed her. It was their first real kiss. Soft and careful and full of promise. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. "So we're really married now," Nari said. "Not just legally. Actually married. If you want to be," Taman said. "We could have a real ceremony. With your sister and friends. Make it official in our hearts, not just on paper. I'd like that." They sat together as the sun set completely. Stars appeared above them. Somewhere out there, the Dominion still ruled. Millions of servitors remained enslaved. But here, on New Hope, hundreds of people were free. They were learning skills, building homes, making choices about their own lives, and the movement was growing. Other species were questioning the servitor system. Young people across the galaxy were organizing. Change was slow, but it was happening. 3 months later, Nari and Taman had their second wedding. It was small and beautiful. Mirai stood as Nari's witness. Captain Jiwan stood for Taman. Kyle performed the ceremony according to Valorian tradition. Nari wore flowers from New Hope. Taman wore his best suit, the one he had worn to the diplomatic party where they first met. They spoke vows of their own choosing. Promises of partnership, respect, and love. Promises to keep fighting for freedom together. Everyone celebrated late into the night. There was music and food and laughter. The kind of joy that comes from surviving darkness and finding light. Months after that, Nari discovered she was pregnant. She told Taman while they were working in the settlement's new garden. He dropped his tools. "Really?" "Really," she laughed. He picked her up and spun her around carefully. "We're going to have a baby. A free baby. A child who will never know slavery." Tears ran down his face. Down hers, too. Their child would be born into a universe still struggling with injustice, but also a universe where change was possible, where people like them could make a difference. One evening, when Nari was heavily pregnant, Kyle visited their home. He had news. "We're planning more operations," he said. "Bigger ones. We have ships now, resources, volunteers. The movement is growing faster than we imagined. We want to help," Taman said. "After the baby," Nari added firmly. "Family first. Then we fight," Kale smiled. "That's fair. The struggle will still be there. It's going to take years, decades, maybe generations. Then we'll fight as long as it takes," Nari said. That night, Nari and Taman sat on their porch. New Hope's twin moons hung in the sky. The settlement spread out below them, lights twinkling in windows. Taman rested his hand on Nari's belly. Their child kicked against his palm. "What should we name them?" he asked. "Something that means hope," Nari said. "Or freedom." "Both," Taman suggested. "Hope and freedom. That's what we're building." Nari leaned against him. She thought about how far she had come. From property to person, from servant to wife, from victim to fighter. None of it had been easy. The journey had been painful and dangerous. But she had never been alone. Taman had been beside her every step, partner in all things. "I love you," she said softly. "I love you too," he replied. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars. The same stars that shone over enslaved populations across the galaxy. The same stars that would watch them continue the fight, because they had learned something important. Freedom wasn't given, it was taken. It was fought for. It was built piece by piece, person by person, and love, real love, was choosing to stand together through all of it. The servitor system wasn't destroyed. Not yet, but it had been challenged. Cracks had appeared in its foundation. More would come. More rescues. More marriages. More people choosing freedom over fear. And at the center of it all, a human and a Valorian who had found each other in the darkest place, who had built something beautiful from broken pieces. Nari rested her head on Taman's shoulder. Their child moved in her belly. A new life. A free life. The future was uncertain. The fight was far from over, but tonight they were together. They were safe. They were free, and that was enough.